is this, that if the little people, the ordinary people, who've completely given up with politics, who don't believe that anyone speaks for them or represents them, if you can inspire those people to go out and vote, you can change the world.
Who else has a question? Over here?
Hi, I'm Mark McKegg. I'm a delegate from Texas. And I was just wondering, Mr. Farage, the impact that UKIP had on the much larger Conservative Party and impacting its manifesto, impacting the way it campaigned and it governed. How would you say that you and UKIP were able to sort of steer the course of the Conservative Party in the governing style of the elected leadership in London?
Yeah, I mean, 25 years ago, I embarked on this because I just didn't feel that our country was headed in the right direction. I felt that the European project, which my parents had bought into as being about trade, as being about being good neighbours, I could see the political dimension. And we had a big treaty 25 years ago called the Maastricht Treaty. So I've been doing this for 25 years. And one of the big questions was, should I try and do this through UKIP, or should I do it as part of the Conservative Party and by trying to work from within? All right, so that's one of the great debates and perhaps dilemmas that I faced all those years ago. And it always seemed to me that I kept bumping into people at about the time of Maastricht, and I'd meet Tory MPs who'd say, and I'd tell them what I thought about our membership of the Union, and they said, well, we completely agree with you, Nigel. I said, well, why don't you say so in public? Oh, well, it's all, it's all a bit difficult. I might get deselected. So frankly, I took the view, two views. One, that there was virtually nobody inside the existing political class who would genuinely fight for this issue, but that secondly, if you are somebody with a sincerely held view, the big parties generally crush it out of you or stop you from getting into a position where you can exert influence. So that's why I did it through UKIP. I have to confess, it's taken a lot more years than I thought it would to get to this conclusion, and I did really worry at times that I might go down as the patron saint of lost causes. It's taken a hell of a long time, but ultimately it was the threat that UKIP were beginning to pose to the Conservative Party. Incidentally, now we pose it to the Labour Party, perhaps in an even bigger way, because some of these big issues cross the traditional left-right divides of politics. So I would say this to you, there is absolutely no way that David Cameron would have made the promise of a referendum if it hadn't been for the threat of UKIP. And when it came to the referendum itself, it was really vital that we got Boris Johnson and Michael Gove appealing to that Conservative vote. We had figures on the left appealing to their vote. And I think what UKIP did in the referendum, again, that was crucial, was I think if anybody got those people out to vote who hadn't voted in 20 years, it was us. It was our campaigning style. So as far as I'm concerned, difficult though it's been, and if you take on the establishment, they're pretty rude to you. They don't sort of come along with a tray of gin and tonics and say, jolly well done. But I have to say, it's all been worth it.
Who else wants to ask a question without a tray of gin and tonics? Right over here. Someone's coming to you, right behind you.
Hello, Mr. Farage. Tim Stanley. I'm from the London Daily Telegraph. I know you say you're here to talk about Brexit and how that happened, but you have been to Republican and Conservative conferences before. I know you've been to CPAC in the past, and you're not going to the Democrat ones. You don't have good links with liberals in this country. I know you've said that direct comparisons are useless, but what do you think UKIP and yourself do have in common with the Republican Party? Not necessarily Trump, but with the Republican Party and the Conservative movement. What similarities do you see with UKIP, and what are the differences? Can you crystallize those for us?
Well, there are some quite big differences in terms of perhaps attitudes towards gun policy. And these are the big, and we talked about it a moment ago, these are the big cultural differences that exist between this country and our country. The similarities, well, I think there are, there have been, over the last decade or so, elements of the activist base within republicanism who see what is happening in Washington very much the same way that people like me, who were Conservative Party members in the United Kingdom, saw what was happening in Westminster. It's all about disconnect. And I would like to think that maybe what we've proven is that if you're prepared, to fight hard for what you believe in, then absolutely anything is possible. And I think there is clearly, some of the attitudes towards Washington and the disconnect that exist within America, I hear quite similar echoes of the same statements being made about Westminster and Brussels.
I think there's one over here. Well, a couple. We can go back to back.
Hi there, I'm Daniel Dale from the Toronto Star newspaper in Canada. You helped pull off something that was seen by many as wildly implausible at one point, and so has Donald Trump. When he started to rise in the Republican Party, to the forefront of this field and then to the nomination, did you say to yourself, oh, I could have seen that coming, or was it as crazy and shocking and amazing to you as everyone else?
I'm not in the least bit surprised. Not in the least bit surprised. What Trump has done, he's taken on the establishment, well, not just in Washington, within his own party, he's taken on the establishment. And now I could see the way this guy, as I say, this is not, this is not full-throated support, but I could see the way this guy makes an argument, causes a storm, then when he gets condemned by everybody, rather than retracting, he just goes that little bit further. Yeah, I've been watching this with great interest. I think I'm not surprised that he got the nomination at all. Well, it's a bit tough to say who's going to win at this moment in time, but just maybe he will reach out to those voters, and maybe there are big similarities between those voters and some of these people who voted for Brexit. So, yeah, I think everyone's been astonished at his rise, but I suspect it's probably not over yet.
I think there's another one at the same table.
Quite tough to see, isn't it?
Thank you. Tom Leonard from the Daily Mail of London. Just a small point, maybe. You were talking about the appointments, the inspiring appointments that Theresa May has made as Prime Minister. You didn't mention Boris Johnson as Foreign Secretary, who's obviously in talks at the moment with John Kerry. What do you think of his appointment?
It's great. We've got a Foreign Secretary who is going to raise Britain's profile all over the world, and at the same time, he'll also make people smile a bit too, and that can't be a bad thing in a world where we don't smile enough, perhaps. No, listen, I think it's very, very good. The three Brexiteers are in position, they've got the jobs. I know there are some who are cynically saying, oh, well, if they mess it up, then she's able to say, well, it was all their fault and this was never deliverable, but I just don't take that view. I think there are three people there who are committed to this, and I just hope that we've got the courage, particularly with Brussels, to recognise just what a strong hand we've got and to play it properly. And I'm in no doubt that by 2019 we will be out of the European Union. What I question is exactly what deal we're going to get, and perhaps the ultimate Brexit test is, at the next general election, will we have back our international territorial waters? Will we have back 200 miles of the North Sea that is ours, or will we have shown ourselves to be a bit weak-kneed? And I very much hope that all of those things happen.
I can't see everywhere in the room. Any other hands up? Well,
yes, hello, Mr. Farage. Oh, I've got one here. At the back. It's Paul McLeod from BuzzFeed. There was a perception on this side of the pond that seemed kind of odd when the Brexit side won, and then people like yourself stepped down. Boris Johnson stepped down from running for the prime ministership, and it kind of seemed like there was this situation where you guys won, but then you didn't want to clean up the situation afterwards and deal with the implications. And I just wanted you to address that, please.
Well, Boris Johnson is Foreign Secretary, and the other two Brexiteers are people that I shared platforms with all over the country. So, no. As for my position, look, I was, and as I explained to the gentleman from Texas, what I've done in politics, I've done from the outside. I've tried to change opinion. I've tried to raise issues that other people didn't want to talk about. And I would like to think that with my supporters in UKIP, we've changed the political agenda, we've changed the centre of gravity of British politics. I am staying on as an MEP, as leader of a group in the European Parliament, to see this process through. And I will, as this process unfolds, I will get up in the European Parliament and make my friendly and constructive speeches that I always do there, which I've no doubt they're looking forward to enormously. So I'm doing my bit. As far as UK politics is concerned, you know, and this procedure over the next 2.5 years, there's nothing I can do. You know, I'm not in the governing Conservative administration. So yeah, I'm taking a bit of a step back in terms of not going on leading a political party into the next domestic set of elections. But, you know, my motivations, you know, I wasn't one of those people, you know, who went from university into a research office and always wanted to be an elected politician. I never even thought about being in elected politics until I was in my 30s. I got involved in this because I had one great cause that I wanted to fight, and that was getting my country back. And that's what we've done. That's what we've done. So I'm perfectly happy with where I am.
Just to wrap up, it's got to be very, very quick.
Hi, thanks very much, both of you. My name is Ruth Sherlock. I'm from the Daily Telegraph as well. Mr. Farage, you mentioned that you criticised Obama for coming in, intervening in British politics over Brexit, but Donald Trump did the same. You know, he came to the UK, he spoke out in support of Brexit. Do you condemn him in the same way? And secondly, very briefly, Mr. Trump's kind of rise here has also been kind of, people in white nationalist movements have been quite excited by this. And the party platform of the Republicans is kind of moving quite far to the right. Is there a concern that in this kind of nativism, some kind of dangerous trends emerge? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Look, I mean, you know, Trump did not come to the UK on a big political, you know, speaking tour. I think he came to the UK to look at some of his business golf interests in Scotland, and was asked a question and gave a comment. It's rather different, I think, in terms of scale and intent to what Obama did. Look, I know that since the referendum, you know, there are one or two people who have behaved very badly towards foreign people in our country. There were one or two people behaving badly towards them before a referendum was even talked about. There are always, in any society, some elements, you know, who loathe virtually everybody. They're few in number. There is absolutely nothing that I've ever tried to do that wants to inflame that or make it worse. Actually, I would say this to you. I think what the European Union project has done by taking away from people their democratic rights, by willfully trying to get rid of their national identities into this new supranational order that no one recognises. You know, why have we got Golden Dawn? Why do we have an avowedly neo-Nazi party? This is not a term of abuse. They call themselves neo-Nazi. They're proud of their neo-Nazi roots. And why are they the third biggest party now in Greece? Well, I'll tell you why. Because actually, if you take away from people their democratic rights, they will move towards the extremes of right and left in politics, or perhaps even towards violence and direct action. So I genuinely believe that getting a Europe of democratic nation states, not only will Europe guarantee through doing that that it's at peace, but I think that's the way we stop real extremism.
To wrap up on a more upbeat note than neo-Nazis.
Yeah, well, but it's true.
Almost every other note is upbeat from
Yeah.
the neo-Nazi. I would just thank you very much for coming, and I would point out behind us is the Cuyahoga River, which in the dark days of pollution in America once actually started on fire. There is a beer here called Burning River.
Wow.
Enjoy one and let me know how it is.
I will.
Big Man Tyrone here. Make sure to subscribe to the Wicked Awesome Robin Hood UKIP YouTube website. He exposes the leftist crops on the British Brainwashing Corporation. Nice.